Okay, I think we'll start because I think we need to respect the time for the people who have joined so far, and the other ones have to just come here when they come. So I just want to wish you a warm welcome, and it's really nice to have you here. And for the first time, we actually have an international guest with us, which is really exciting. But I was planning to just take a couple of minutes just to introduce you to the network. I'm not sure if you have joined us before or not, but okay, let's see. I'm sure. What can you see?
Our guest tonight.
Yeah, okay, so that's good. Let's see. There. Do you see Teal for Teal in the presentation mode? Okay, good.
Yep.
Well, just a couple of minutes just to tell you a little about the network, which I started back in 2015. So we're actually on our 8th year now, which is kind of fun. And I think we are the only ones left in the Teal for Teal international world. I'm struggling and I'm stubborn. I want to spread the word about new ways of organizing and trying to inspire companies and leaders to try something different. It might not be so different nowadays, but it was back in 2015 at least. You can find us on LinkedIn. We are over 1,200 members on LinkedIn now. I don't think that many are active on the network, but we have like around 300 people who come for the events, which is kind of fun or very fun. We are a non-profit network, and we are financed via donations that we ask for the events that we are arranging, and that's just to sort of get some kind of balance for the cost that we have. So that's all we do. I don't take out any fees or for my work in this. I do it just because I think it's really interesting and important to talk about these questions. We have events about once a month, and that is to sort of spread the inspiration, knowledge, and also how to advise for people who want to try and go in this direction. So you can also find us on our website, and we have a YouTube channel where we post recordings from our events. So I will be recording this one as well, and I'm going to post it up there afterwards. But as I said, today we have a very important guest, and I'm so happy to have you here, Marc Peter. And it's going to be so interesting to listen to you and to your transformation that you have gone through in quite a substantial number of years now, as far as I can recall. And we got in touch this fall when I posted a post on LinkedIn about Viisi, about the transformation that you had gone through. And from there, I asked you if you would like to come to one of our events, and that's where we are now. So thank you for wanting to share your experience and knowledge around this.
Sure.
And the company that you work for is called Viisi, and you are mortgage brokers. I hope that's correct. And what I really love about you is your purpose. We want to realize dreams in a sustainable financial world. I just love that. And especially now when we see that banks are going bankrupt again, and we're back to 2008. So this is really super important, I think, when it comes to the financial stability in the world. And so as I recall, when we talked about it, you're going to talk quite a lot about your transformation journey that you have gone through, and you're now organized according to Holacracy, which is, it's not Teal, but it's very, very similar, I would say. And from that, I just want to hand over the word and the presentation to you. So let's see now. how I do this. Stop sharing. There.
There you go.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Okay, so go ahead. I need to. It seems like someone is having trouble joining the meeting, so I will just fix that. And so I hand it over to you.
Okay, thanks very much. Thanks very much for having me. And yeah, that's how it goes. You meet each other on LinkedIn, and then it's serendipity, isn't it?
Yeah.
So very happy to be here. I need to share with you something because it was kind of a logistical challenge to be here because my wife is actually on a last-minute business trip. I'm at home at the moment in Haarlem, which is close to Amsterdam in the Netherlands. And so the kids, I've got 3 kids, 2 twin daughters of 9 and a son of 5, almost 6. So in terms of self-organization, I kind of handed over the power of the household to them tonight, and they actually came up with with a list, a schedule, which I'm so proud of because they're going to have dinner and then obviously an ice cream afterwards. It was on their schedule in Dutch. They're going to do the dishwasher, homework. Then they're going to read the story, bedtime story for Oscar, then brush their teeth, and then go to bed and wait for Dad. So hopefully that will go without a fight. But I guess that's proof of how self-organization can work. Hopefully. So let me share my my presentation. I normally work in another thing, but I'll manage here. Just put this here, and then there we go. Yep, that's desktop 2. Then I need sound as well. So if all is well, you can see my screen. Excellent. So yeah, so I work for Viisi, indeed a mortgage broker or mortgage advisor. We are based in the Netherlands. We have several offices in the major cities in the Netherlands. And to be quite honest, this picture here gives me mixed feelings because this was actually last summer. It was the 4th time in a row that we won Best Workplace in the Netherlands, according to a Great Place to Work. But if I see this group, we were back then about 75 people. Of this picture, almost, I think 10 or 11 people we actually had to say goodbye to.
Sorry, I think we just see your background. It's just an orange design of some kind.
Ah, okay. So you don't see any picture. Well, that's difficult to see then. So let's stop that one. It's this desktop 1. So now you should see it. Is that correct?
Yeah. And if you can put it into presentation mode as well.
And now you see it still?
Yeah, it's good.
Wonderful. So that's the picture I was talking about. And quite a few of these colleagues we had to say goodbye to. We are active in the housing market and probably, I think in many European countries and all over the world, housing market is really tough right now. We have a 50% decline in the market over the last 5 to 6 months. And we were actually growing, investing, hiring new people. And then for the first time in our history, we had to say goodbye to people. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that as well afterwards. So does Teal, does self-organization, does that work also in times of crisis? So I think and luckily we're now looking forward again, and it's more positive. But we've gone through quite a bit of a emotional time as well. So I'm going to talk today about, well, the journey we took, or we're still on, I guess, finding the best organizational structure, the best culture to fit our, let's say, our point of view on how to treat stakeholders within Viisi. We say people first, our own employees come first. On the second place, our customers, and lastly, our shareholders. So I hope, I mean, some of it might be very well known for you or common knowledge, but it's really our journey towards where we are today. So I would like to start with this character, and it's again about my kids. Do you know, is this cartoon known over in your place?
I don't think so. My kids
No?
are older, but maybe someone who has smaller kids can answer.
Yeah, anyone knows this character from the cartoon? Well, I guess you can see that this is a queen bee.
Yeah.
And it's actually the only cartoon all my kids can kind of watch without starting a fight, because I've got two girls, one son. The girls want to see, you know, the Barbie kind of things, and my son more like Paw Patrol and the normal boy stuff. And when I watched this together with them, I suddenly came to realize that sometimes we are brought up with stuff that is just not true. Because when we look at this queen bee, we actually think that this is the boss or a sort of a CEO of the bee colony, of the bee company. But it's not true at all. This is not a CEO that says to her teams, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to go to this flower field, etc. But a bee company or a bee queen, the only thing she does, her only role is in fact laying eggs. I mean, on a good day, she lays maybe 1,000 or 1,500 eggs, but she's not the CEO. And in fact, you could actually say that a bee colony is a self-organizing or self-managing company. So I don't know how many hobby beekeepers or maybe professional beekeepers are in the group, but I found out a couple of things about bees which are quite interesting. So here you see a new or a flower field, and you also see this bee, most probably. And just imagine you are that bee. You just found out this new flower field. It's way too big for you to carry all the nectar back home or back to the company. And you actually want to tell your colleagues where this flower field is. Does any one of you know how a bee lets her colleagues know where to find this flower field? Does anyone know?
I do. You know, they fly in circles.
They dance.
They fly in circles, they dance.
Yeah.
They dance is very close, very close. So for those who don't know, I obviously was prepared for the people that don't know. I found a little movie clip of David Attenborough. You have to know David Attenborough, famous English or British nature documentarist. He actually also found something about how these bees come back and communicate to their team members. Here we go.
Now that she's got their attention, she begins her dance, using a code of movements that tell her fellow workers where her discovery lies. The duration of her waggle indicates the distance to the nectar source. The longer the waggle, the further the flower. And the angle at which she dances across the comb tells them the direction to the flower in relation to the sun. Her instructions are remarkably accurate and can pinpoint the location of a nectar source over 6 kilometers away. Some of her fellow workers set off immediately to find it. In one short season, the colony's workers will visit up to 500 million flowers and will make around 90 kilograms of honey. That is sufficient to sustain the whole colony through the coming winter when there is no nectar to be had.
I'm always amazed when I see this clip, how they without interference of a manager or a CEO or whatever, they found out themselves a way to communicate, a way to work together in order to basically run the business themselves. Obviously, they have millions of years of experience, but I found one or two more things about bees that interest me, because apparently 5% of these bees, they don't listen very well to the bee coming back to their colleagues doing the dance and telling them where that flower field is. So instead of listening to that particular bee and flying with her, they actually fly exactly the other way. So when the bee says north, this 5% goes south. And the remarkable thing is that this group of bees actually is responsible for the survival of the bee colony. And if you think about it, it's quite logical, because if everyone would go to the same opportunity or the same flower field, then at some point that flower field is empty. So you could say that this 5% is sort of the innovation department of the bee company, and because they do different, they think different, they see other opportunities. So in that sense, there's always something new, some new opportunity that they find. Then one more, and then we'll go and start to talk serious business. Does anyone know what this phenomenon is? Just shout if you know it.
Svärmning in Swedish.
Yeah, I don't know the word of it in English though.
But it's a queen flying off, and everyone else is following that queen.
Yeah, so it's called swarming in English.
Oh, it's the same thing then.
Yeah. So indeed, when a bee company becomes too successful, in other words, the nest is becoming too full, then a bunch of bees, they take a queen bee, they go hang on a tree, and a few hundred of them, they transform from honeybees to nest scouts. And they start flying all around in the area, and then they come back and they present their findings. They do that in the same way as when they find nectar. They do a waggle dance, and at some point, a bee gets so many followers that there's this democratic quorum, and then this whole bunch of a couple of thousand of bees, they fly to the new nest location. And they actually managed to perfect this decision-making system that in more than 95% of occasions, they find the best possible nesting site. So how come? What's the main, let's say, driver of such a high quality decision making? How would they do that? Is there anyone who might guess what's going on here? I mean, imagine that in your team, more than 95% of the time you make the best possible decisions. How does that work? I mean, it could be obviously availability of information, all kinds of, you know.
Could it be that there's not just one bee per location, but a good location comes with several bees, and the number means that's probably a better one.
Yeah. Also, what research actually shows, and I don't know how they found out, but a main driver is that they have a crystal clear purpose. So the only purpose of a bee colony is to survive. So the only, let's say, they don't discuss about surviving. I mean, there's not one bee says we will survive tomorrow. No, everyone has a crystal clear understanding of what this colony has to do, and that's surviving. So, well, actually, this is the main character in the cartoon. You probably don't know her. She's called Maya the bee. And she is actually that 5%. She always does different stuff. She doesn't listen to anyone, and at the end of the episode, she's always right. So where do I learn all this stuff? How do I know all this research? There's this book that I read last summer. It's called Honeybee Democracy, and there's this guy, Thomas D. Seeley. He spent his whole life investigating and researching bees. He has his own, let's say, research bee colony, and he does all these things, and he found out all kinds of interesting stuff, like the stuff that I shared, and he wrote that down in a book. And the nice thing is that he also wrote down what we actually could learn from bees within our own companies. So he made that parallel with how we organize as human beings. So quite interesting if you're fed up with all your management books and all these things. Quite nice to read. So let's start talking about how we organize as human companies. So how would we let's say organize as human beings? Now at Viisi we get sorry, that's my iPhone interfering. So we get weekly visitors of companies that want to know more about how we organize, etc. And I always ask this question: just in your head, visualize an org chart. So maybe that's an exercise for you as well. I'm really curious what the first thing or what the first visual is in your heads. Maybe you could share that. So what's the first drawing or picture that comes up in your mind?
Would be a classical org chart with boxes that interline with each other.
9 out of 10, or maybe 9.5 out of 10, will draw something in their heads that looks like this. It's the traditional boxes and lines, indeed, the traditional management hierarchy. Now, I've looked up a picture, this one. Now, guess, what year does this picture come from? Any guesses?
Could just as well be 1930 as 2015.
Well, that answer says it all, basically. I mean, I've had answers. I mean, also from the Dutch Golden Age, the 16th, 17th century. But I've had answers as well. This actually could be the org chart of next week. You know, so this particular one is actually from 1910. A US railroad company who thought it was nice to kind of put stuff in boxes and lines. So and that's really strange. I mean, let's say back in 2016, 15, 16, we also started to think about, we were scaling up. We were 25 people then. We thought, okay, well, if we scale up, how could we keep this people first, customer second, shareholders last culture whilst growing? And then the funny thing is that I could show you any other thing, like a chair or a car, and you would know that it's either antique or of today. And this dress, I mean, you know that this is a very old dress. I mean, this one even, you know, this is my first phone, the Nokia 3310. Does anyone know what year this was introduced? I mean, you must know.
2001.
No, I'd say in the 90s.
So I looked it up. It was apparently 2000. And if I put the iPhone 10, which is already quite old actually, if you put the iPhone 10 next to it, I looked it up as well. That was launched in 2019. If you look at the difference, that Nokia 3310 actually looks ancient, you know, and it's only 19 years. So back to the org chart. You could say, and that's what we were actually trying to find out. It could be a perfect system, you know, never change a winning team. Let's go for it. But we wanted to find this out because there's also, maybe it's too hard to change. So we started our, let's say, research into org charts and also, let's say, finding proof of maybe it's a perfect system. Now, this is probably the most known, let's say, research on employee engagement in the world. So that's Gallup. Every year they do a state of the global workplace research. They interview or they send questionnaires to hundreds of thousands of employees worldwide, and they actually, on the basis of these questionnaires, they put the employees in one of the three buckets. So one bucket is engaged. Well, basically, that's the people that drive performance, that take their team and the organization forward, highly engaged. And then there is this disengaged bucket. That's people that show up to their work, but they're not psychologically attached to their work. They don't put any extra energy or passion into their work, only time. And then at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, they're already left. And then the last bucket is actively disengaged. So that's people that are not just unhappy, but they're actually the saboteurs of the people that do want to bring the organization forward. So now the question to you, maybe you know the research, it's been posted on LinkedIn many times. So what's the, if I ask you 3 percentages, what's the division of people in those buckets? So if you would have to name 3 percentages, and if you know it, you can already shout it as well, if you want. I'll tell you. Basically, 85% of employees worldwide are in the bucket disengaged or actively disengaged. So only 15% are engaged. And this was quite shocking to us. And we thought, okay, 9 out of 10 organizations are organized according to a management hierarchy. So can we still say this is a winning team? And actually, this whole engagement research is kind of outdated, because nowadays it's called quiet quitting. You may have seen it on TikTok. It's since last summer, in the wake of the Great Resignation in the US, people started to post little video clips on how they would actually do the absolute minimum requirements of their job, just not to get fired. So that was a big viral video episode on TikTok. So quite shocking to us. So for us, it would be, okay, is this a perfect system, or is it apparently too hard to change for companies? So, and what model should we choose? Now, Elena, she already told something about our purpose. Basically, it's what she says. We want to change the financial sector. We want to make it more sustainable, more long-term focused. And a big part of that is to change work, because we think we were actually founded in the financial crisis. We were in 2010, we were founded. A big part of that financial crisis was actually because of work wasn't organized well, wasn't organized healthy. So people just did not treat each other well and took irresponsible risks, etc. So we said, no, we need to change that. We need to put our own people first, customers second, and shareholders last. As I just told, we've won quite a few best workplace titles. For us, that's the cherry on the cake, because we prove that people first works. But I get many questions about, what about the customer is king? Why isn't customer on the first place? And then I always need to prove that, yes, okay, we're a mortgage advisor. And by putting people first, we achieve a 9.8 out of 10 customer review. So for us, that means, okay, we're on the right track. This is the right order of stakeholders. So if you then have decided you need to put your own people first, then basically the first question you need to ask yourselves is, why do people actually want to come and work for Viisi? Why do they knock on our doors? What motivates them? Why do they get up every morning? Now this, it's quite an old TED talk already. Dan Pink, you probably know him. He wrote quite a few books on motivation, stuff that drives us. It's an 18-minute video. We can't watch it now. For those who don't know, this is a spoiler alert. His conclusion is, people are always looking for three things. He actually nicked that from the self-determination theory, but people are looking for autonomy, for mastery, and for purpose. So autonomy is that you have the feeling you can decide how to get from A to B. Mastery is you want to become better at the stuff that you want to become better at. Purpose, it's become a bit of a major thing nowadays, but it's basically split in two. Yes, there's one meaning of purpose, which is climbing the Mount Everest together, you know, that big overarching purpose. But to be quite frank, no one at Viisi, and I think no one at any company, gets up every morning and says, wow, I'm now changing the financial sector, I'm now making it more sustainable, etc. No, it's more the other side of purpose, and that is that you find meaning in your work, that you actually have the feeling that you can contribute, and it has everything to do how you treat each other as team members, and how you experience teamwork, etc. So those three things. And then most companies still choose for the traditional management hierarchy, which is basically command and control, drawn up by some distant HR department, approved by CEO, CFO, fixed job descriptions, fixed career paths. So in fact, I don't see, or we did not see, any autonomy, mastery, or purpose if you just look at that management hierarchy. And in fact, people don't keep to a management hierarchy anyway. They find their own relationships. They work around stuff. I mean, and this is a bit of a, I guess, a humoristic picture. But you can't put people in boxes and lines. That's my story here. And this one actually really interested us, and that's, maybe you've heard of this as well, the iceberg of ignorance. So there's this researcher back in 1989 who actually, his research showed that there's something really wrong with the distribution of power and information within a management hierarchy. So what his story was, that on the work floor, the staff, they see all the problems. They talk to customers, they talk to each other, they see 100% of the problems. But the problem is, if they want to do something about this problem, or maybe take this opportunity, or avoid damage, they need to ask their team leader. who in turn sees only 74% of the problems. And if you're unlucky, it actually goes up a layer, and then the actual availability of information gets less and less and less. So if you're really unlucky, then the problem has already created its damage before you get the approval to do something about that. And this actually rang a bell with us and said, okay, no wonder that 85% of people is disengaged or actively disengaged in their work. They see stuff, but they can't do anything about it. So for us, this traditional management hierarchy had so many, let's say, flaws, that we thought, okay, what should we choose? So we summed up again what we were trying to achieve. We want to change the financial sector with a workplace that enables every colleague to realize autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So then the question is, how, before you choose a structure, what are the main building blocks? And then this might also be something you've heard of. And this is a research of Amy C. Edmondson, Harvard professor. She did a research in hospitals, and she actually found out, her task was to find the ingredients for top performing teams. And she actually found out, and she was kind of flabbergasted, that the best performing teams, they made the most mistakes. So she said, there's something wrong with my data here, because how come that the best performing teams make the most mistakes? So then she dug into these data, and she found out that these teams were actually able to create a culture of psychological safety. What does that mean? Team members in these high-performing teams, they had the feeling that they were allowed to make mistakes and admit them, and also ask questions, or stupid questions even, and they could stand up for something. Basically, it came down to the top-performing teams. The team members were able to be themselves, and they were appreciated for it. So with that in the back of our minds, we said, okay, let's not go for a management hierarchy. Let's have a look at holacracy. For those who don't know, in a few lines, in a holacracy, it's a purpose-driven self-organization model. And basically, you could say purpose is your new boss. There's no person your boss. Purpose is your new boss. And this is our org chart. What you see here is we don't have traditional managers, nor fixed job descriptions or titles, but we do have autonomous roles and circles, which you could compare a little bit with teams, with clear purposes and accountabilities. And the beauty is that all these roles and circles are designed by our colleagues themselves, and we call ourselves the visionaries. So then you'd say, okay, if you've got all that in place, then perfect, you've got the best workplace and you have top team results. No, for us, it's a constant journey to find a better definition of what people first means. This is only part of it, because holacracy itself doesn't do the work for you. It's just a tool to improve your work and work better together, and be more agile when it comes to changes in the environment as well. It's a lot of other stuff as well, and I've summed up a few things, and then afterwards we can basically open up for conversation. So, sorry, I'm just putting away these cameras. So, first of all, it's also the language that you speak. We've abolished the term human resources, because we think people are not resources, people are people. We call it people first, but I'd say people and culture, or people, whatever, as long as you don't call them resources. We don't have unpersonal meetings. We start every meeting with a personal check-in. How are you doing? We've abolished salary negotiations. We have a new salary model that is fully transparent, based on equal pay. Everyone gets a fixed pay rise. No performance bonuses. We only reward loyalty. This is a very important one for us. So there's no administrative onboarding, so you don't get the package of with your laptop and then good luck with your job. But we have all new colleagues actively work for a considerable amount of time in all the teams. We have no employment contract based on distrust. We actually just released an artwork as our employment contract, which is based on trust. We said, okay, if you want to come and work for Viisi, it should be a party and not you're equipped with a 20-page employment contract. So no annual performance reviews. We do daily peer-to-peer feedback. No Peter principle, you probably know it. You know, in a management hierarchy, people tend to rise until their own level of incompetence. We say no, everyone is on a personal career path based on their talents, not based on the fixed path you need to take. This one we nicked from Netflix. Netflix has I think a travel allowance, which has no limit. We say there's no training budget. You just decide in your team what is best for you and the team to do. So there's no limit to what education or training or whatever you want to take. Radical transparency really helped us with the difficult time that we've gone through, because everything is known: salary, liquidity, turnover. So every week we know exactly how the company is doing. So we've actually after COVID, we sent out questionnaires and said, okay, do you want to come back to the office? Many people said, yeah, we want to go back to the office, but we hate the commute. So we basically, inspired by the 15-minute economy, we looked at all the employees, we put them on a heat map on Google Maps, and we said, okay, let's go for this thing that everyone could go by bike or walking to their office. So we actually opened 3 new offices, and now everyone can go by bike or walking to the office. Teams hire their own new colleagues, very important for us. Culture fit focus. And lastly, this is what I want to round off with, because I actually think that this is our journey. This is the stuff that we do. But what you find in many companies is this 10 company values on a poster somewhere in the hallway. If you talk to someone in the hallway, no one can remember any of them, or maybe a couple. So we actually decided to have one rule, and one rule only. And that's the golden rule. And that's quite easy. It's treat others like you want to be treated yourselves. So whenever stuff gets difficult, or you need some advice or some guidance, this is the question you really need to ask yourselves before you take any actions. How would I like to be treated myself in this situation? So basically, again, this is our journey. This is how we took it. And this is the rule basically that guided us through all that journey where we are today. So thanks very much. I hope that I've explained it in the right way to let's say kick off the discussions. Maybe over to you, Lena. You're on mute, I think.
Well, maybe we should just stop sharing the screen so we can just have a chat then.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Really interesting.
Did I stop sharing?
No.
Not yet.
Let's see. I can do it there.
Okay, thanks. I normally don't work in Zoom. Okay, that's great. Thanks very much.
So, well, let's have an a discussion. I think we're so few here, so we can just talk with each other instead of using the chat. So if you have any questions, just go ahead and ask.
Yeah, well, I can start. Thank you very much. It was really interesting to hear. My name is Marie. Just wanting to know, did you start from this? Did you start from scratch, or did you do some kind of transformation from a small company, or were you everyone on board from the start?
Yeah, so we were only 25 or so back in 2016, and we were basically a management hierarchy, quite a horizontal with just one layer or so. And then we actually chose for the Big Bang implementation of Holacracy. So we had a company that helped us implement over a period of 6 months or so. And there was this division of skeptical people to very, very positive and going for it. But we actually made the decisions to implement together based on the decision-making process of Holacracy. So we used the integrative decision-making process, and that actually led to the implementation of Holacracy. So
interesting.
Yeah. So that was quite nice because no one had a valid objection, although not everyone was fully agreeing with it. But we said, okay, let's give it a go. We can always steer backwards if it doesn't work. And we're now, let's say, 6-7 years later, and we still have it.
Yeah.
So something worked.
Yeah. That's great. Really inspiring.
Yeah,
Do you think it's doable also? I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Mats.
I must say it was really inspiring, and I'm fascinated to hear that you chose the golden rule, because that's, I think, the key thing that I remember from school. I think that really sums up everything you need in terms of religion or anything. If you just use the golden rule, you don't need anything else. I'm curious about financials. You have the same salary. How do you handle profits and ownership and stuff like that?
So we don't have the same salaries. We've basically defined 5 work areas within Viisi. So we've got, let's say, marketing, we've got the mortgage advisors, we've got the credit department, we've got customer service, and the people first and coaching areas. There we basically said we want to benchmark our salaries on the top quartile of that work area or in the market. So we pay quite well. Obviously, you can earn more somewhere else, but then we say, okay, go there. So we pitch it on the top quartile. And then every year there's this fixed salary increase for all employees. Then after 3, 6, and 9 years, they have an extra, let's say, loyalty pay increase. And we have a portion of the shares that we virtually divide over all colleagues based on points. So every year you earn a point. Every 5 years you earn double points. And with that, your, let's say, piece of the pie increases. And then whenever we reach certain goals, then there is a payment. Also, when the company is sold or partially sold, then all the team actually receives their part, let's say.
How does the ownership of the company look like?
So we basically have virtual shares, and it's really based on trust. We made our own agreement, so there's no notary or there's no, let's say, official stamp or ownership of the company within employees. So the company is still fully owned by the co-founders. And then part of that is, let's say, virtually already reserved for the employees.
Thanks. So profits will accumulate somehow in a balance sheet.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've also decided that all profits go back into the organization. So we've never ever divided profit, also not over the co-founders. So everything goes back in the organization for us to grow.
Okay, thanks.
I have a question regarding when you decided to start on this journey of transforming into an holacracy organization. Were there any specific problems or challenges that you wanted to solve by going on this journey? And from that, have you been able to solve those problems?
Yeah, maybe it's not solve problems, but maybe avoid problems. So we were actually obviously planning to grow, to scale up. We had this ambition of keeping our culture, keeping this people first mindset. And then we looked around and said, well, that's the story. What structure or what organization model fits with this? And also in scaling up literature, holacracy is actually sometimes recommended as a easy way to scale up an organization, because within holacracy, you always have clarity on which roles are necessary. So you also have clarity on which roles need more resources. And then it's just a matter of basically getting more people in to scale up that organization. So for us, in terms of recruitment, it's been great, because we always know where it hurts and what specific roles we need to fill.
Would you say that holacracy is working? I mean, there has been quite a lot of criticism towards holacracy, and I know Zappos, they were used holacracy as a way of organizing, which did not work out so well, as far as I know. Would you say it works in the way it was aimed to work?
Well, I mean, holacracy doesn't do anything.
No.
I mean, you need to make it work. So there's no tool that does the work for you. Yeah, maybe ChatGPT nowadays, but it's you need to make it work, and you need to be you need to have, I think, a healthy doses of skepticism, because we don't take it as a fait accompli, because holacracy was invented by a American software developer in an American context. He was inspired by sociocracy, by getting things done. He just combined some stuff as well. So, I mean, we were inspired by holacracy, but we changed some of the rules as well, because we say we're a mortgage provider. We're not a software developer. We're in Europe. We're not in the US. So it has all these things that are different, and so we decided to change a few things as well to make it better fit our organization.
Okay, good.
I have a question. You've obviously been able to grow this quite successfully. What would you say have been the greatest challenges in on this journey to get here?
I think the biggest challenge was to find a compensation model or salary model that would take away obstacles for people to create their own roles within their teams and not be distracted by salary or disturbed by salary. So by taking out, and we completely decoupled salary from the performance as well. So we said, okay, let's arrange and organize salary once and for all, and then the whole theme of salary can go off the table. So and that really gave us a leap forward, because then we created teams. You know, the typical sales team is the mortgage advisors, but not every mortgage advisor wants to do or is good at 100% or 120% sales every day. You know, you also need people to do other roles, to, let's say, facilitate the others to do 100% sales. But if you are stuck to sales targets or personal sales targets, then you're all driven into the same direction. So that was really crucial for us, get that out of the way. I think at first there was this, wow, we're autonomous and great. There was big enthusiasm, but then after a year or so, year and a half, some people actually took on too much responsibility, took on too many roles, and this is where we basically also created new roles in our people first team or people first circle, because we had work coaches, but that was all work related and stuff, and we took the, let's say, the more longer term people. You know, what is your 5-year plan? What is your purpose? Are you still on track? So those roles we actually took away from the work. So there's your day-to-day work coaches, but we actually took those things out, and we gave those roles more accountabilities. So we could actually say, okay, you're going to a difficult period or whatever. We decide with you that it's okay to stop, or it's okay to hand over roles back to your team. And that helped, in some cases, that helped to kind of bring down the workload for some people and more evenly distributed in the team. But that was really a process of, okay, where are the roles? How many what accountabilities do they have? So that was quite a process for us. Yeah.
That brings me on to another question on people. It's obvious that you need to attract people that really do want to be autonomous and take responsibility, of course. And I guess the feedback culture is really crucial. What happens when if you recruit people that don't really understand what they're getting into and don't really live the culture? Is that just handled by the feedback culture? And how do you create such an honest feedback culture that you then would need?
Yeah, well, to be quite honest, I mean, most of the new colleagues that we get, they arrive straight from university or straight from their education, and for them it actually feels like a warm bath or so. You know, it's like, okay, basically, oh yeah, I was looking for autonomy, a mastery, and a bit of purpose. Yeah, this feels right. But if you then look at, we sometimes hire people with 10, 15 years or maybe more experience, we find that they need to unlearn stuff. They come in and they said, okay, but okay, I used to be a manager, but I have roles here. I'm not a manager anymore. So how does that work? So there's some patterns that they need to say goodbye to, and once they are included and they get it, then they really flourish and say, okay, I now get the roles that I'm really good at, you know, and I don't need to do all that stuff a manager needs to do all the time.
You said you had systematic feedback. Is there a process that you use for it?
Just 1 second, because I think my kids actually opened the door just now. Very good. So that's good. I'm looking outside. So a process. Well, actually, Holacracy has, if you use it well, or at least that's how we use it, it has made feedback so much easier for us. Because the fact that the teams, they make their own roles, they agree on what roles they have, what they are accountable for, what their purpose is, what the goals are. So, and we make those roles very small. So they're very easily interchangeable. So if someone doesn't perform very well in a role for a longer time, it's relatively easy to give that role back to the team. So it's not that you give up your whole job when you get feedback, but it's just one role. And that actually decreases the, let's say, drempel, as we call it. It's it's much easier because the consequence is not so big. And by having most of the teams have daily tactical meetings, and many people I tell this to, they say, "Well, I don't want more meetings. You know, I want less meetings." But the Holacracy tactical meetings are so energizing that actually people wanted more meetings of those. They're shorter. They're not very long. They're quite short, but they're daily. And that also means that feedback is most of the times not older than 1 day. So the problem with feedback many times is it's way too old. So it's way too big. You know, you get to hear in your annual appraisal how you've done the last year. That's very difficult feedback to give. But if you reduce it and you up the frequency, then it becomes more easy. We found out it's still difficult even then, but it's easier than saving the feedback to the end of the year. I mean, I'm going to go back after this session to my kids and I give them feedback straight away. I'm not going to wait and say, okay, Christmas time, you'll hear how you performed tonight.
It gets too dramatic if you wait.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
A question about the teams. Do you work like in self-organized teams, or do you rely on other teams as well? How does that work? Or is it individual working in all of the company, or how do you work? Do you work in
So we basically chopped the whole mortgage advice process into different bits. And those bits are the teams basically.
Okay.
So we've got a circle, a team of mortgage advisors. We've got a circle, a team of credit people, and then customer service, etc. And then it's basically the work areas, you know, I just talked about. So and most people have 80 or 90% of their roles within that team. I'm a bit of an exotic because I've got roles in almost all the circles, but most of the teams have 80-90% in one circle, and then 10 or 20%, it could be in the academy, it could be in some other thing, or they can choose that. But most of your roles are in one team.
Okay, so you're still jumping around in the other roles, so to say, in the other teams as well. So yeah, that's how you know. Okay, yeah. Because I guess that's a big thing in traditional companies when you have the teams and they are, and they're traditional, they're getting self-organized. They forget the other teams. Because they focused into the roles and so on.
Yeah. So, and obviously your main team, that's where you spend most of your time. And then there's also levels of commitment within Holacracy and the software that we use. You can actually also follow teams, and then you subscribe to that team and you see all the actions that they agree to, projects, and that's a very light, let's say, way of working together in another team. And then there's steps in between there as well.
Okay. Do you have some kind of strategy that you work towards, or is it just the purpose that is important?
Oh, most definitely there's a strategy.
Yeah.
And it's often a misunderstanding that in a self-organization or even self-managing that there's no, let me start differently. I need to be purist here, I think. So a self-organization is quite full of strategy. So in a self-managing company or self-steering company, it could go any direction. So within Viisi, there's this overarching purpose, and then every circle has their own purpose that leads to, or that is in service of this bigger purpose, and they all come with their own targets, their own way of working towards the overarching strategy. So basically, yeah.
Yeah, so they bring it up themselves.
Yeah, so
they contribute into that. Yeah, so it's not like top down.
Exactly. exactly. So the big difference there is it's bottom up.
Yeah.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you do if someone misbehaves, like someone bullies someone else or something? Is it the team's responsibility, or is there a role that would be responsible for taking care of that?
Yeah, it's both. So so there's quite a big, let's say, peer-to-peer feedback, and that's quite strong as well. It's even stronger than you would have it top down. We do this Great Place to Work research every year, and when we get the results, I always look at one, well, more, but one score, and that's the score on camaraderie. And we always, or almost always, score 100% on that topic. And camaraderie comes with responsibility as well. So people tend to give each other honest feedback on misbehavior. And then next to that, in our people first circle, we have a role called vertrouwenspersoon, which means the role that you can go to, and they need to keep that confidential. So you can come there with any issue that you might have yourself, or maybe you've seen something about your colleague or whatever. So we've got a role structure in place for that as well. But most of the things are dealt with within the teams.
Okay. Thank you.
You talked in the beginning that you said that there were some employees that were quite hesitant and maybe even negative towards the transition. How have they adapted, and are they still in the company if they haven't adapted?
Yeah, so we have had a few that left, but it was not because of the implementation of holacracy. It was more on, okay, maybe mortgage advisor, the actual job is not stuff that I looked for, but still the company is great. But I mean, it's not my purpose in this job. But the skeptical people, well, there were people that said, well, I'm perfectly happy with the manager telling me what to do. I'm fine. So that was a process that took some time, but the process that we've gone through with starting with a blank sheet and say, okay, what are the activities that we do? Just some of all the work and activities and projects and actions, put them on Post-its, etc. That whole process actually helped basically looking at work differently. So from actions and projects, we got 2 roles, we clustered them into circles. So it was a gradual, let's say, saying goodbye to the old, manager-employee relationship, but more from the work perspective. So, okay, what work needs to be done, and who's good at this work, and who has talent for this work. So that's basically a new way, and gradually. And this particular person, a colleague of mine, who was most skeptical, is actually lead link of our people first circle now. So I mean, that's the transformation for you. And she was actually on admin before. She was our bookkeeper.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Yeah.
I have a question. You mentioned your contract to be an artwork. What that made me intrigued. What could that be like?
That's a lighter topic indeed. Shall I show it?
Please.
Where do I have it? And let me just look it up. Did I put that in this one here? Well, basically we said, okay, how much do you really need to put in your employment contract? I mean, how much stuff needs to be in there? And then it turned out that employees are very well protected already by Dutch labor law. So in many cases, you don't need to put that stuff extra in your employment contract. So we basically had some external help with that as well. And we said, okay, what if our employment contract was an artwork? Because we think it should be a party. It should be a fantastic experience to come and work for Viisi. And then we found I'm just looking it up, and we found a very famous Dutch illustrator. You probably don't know him. I don't have it in this one. I think I have it here. And we gave him a briefing, and we said, okay, oh, ships, I don't have it here either. So we gave him a briefing of what we stand for as an organization. And then he came up with, I hope I can find it. Been in the news. Oh yeah, here it is. Yeah, so desktop 1, share. You see my screen now? Yeah. So this is the drawing, which basically reflects our circular, basically standpoint, more sustainable financial sector, people working together on growth, sustainable growth, fully transparent organization. And here, this is the little trick of the trade. Here is a QR code. And this QR code actually leads to a page on our website. And on this page, we've summed up some of the things that we find important. Oh, maybe I can put it up quickly. And this is a public page. This is actually our salary model, which is transparent as well. Let's see if Arbeitskontrakt works. No, that doesn't work. Well, can't find it at the moment. Basically, we've added 6 or 7 themes that we find important. First of all, you have to be yourself at Viisi. That's you have to be. It's forbidden not to be yourself. We have a work wherever you want. This autonomy theme. So there's nothing about competition. How do you call it? Competition law or whatever. So basically, we've resized it into a one-pager, and as a present, as a welcoming gift, we have this artwork or this illustration.
Very nice, thank you.
Is there anything else?
Yeah, do you have any more questions? No? And I don't think I have any more questions either. Sort of emptied them now. But it's been really, really interesting. So I just want to thank you so much for coming to us and telling us about your journey. And I do hope that you are going on a even more successful journey ahead, and where people come first still.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much for having me. I mean, it's great to be so close and still so far away. Yeah. So it's great for thanks to the technology. Yeah, thanks very much. And whenever any of you are in Amsterdam, that's our headquarters, please stop by. Just connect on LinkedIn or something, and then stop by. You're always welcome.
Thank you. Really nice.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very inspiring.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, dokes.
Bye-bye.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I'll
Bye-bye.
go back to my kids.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Bye bye. Yeah.